Baris Baktaş and Yagmur Yüksel are lighting up the conversation again, and this time the reason is as grand as the city their story is unfolding in. After weeks of whispers, the pair finally gave fans something real to talk about. Yagmur quietly boarded a flight to Paris to launch an international film that could reshape the direction of her career, while Baris stood just behind the scenes, steady and smiling, turning a public milestone into a private, tender moment of support. The buzz began in the early hours at Istanbul airport, where onlookers caught sight of Yagmur in an effortlessly sleek travel outfit, the kind of look that says she's there to work, not to pose, yet still impossible not to notice. Baris kept close, helping with a carry-on, making small talk with a few fans who had rushed to catch a glimpse. When security finally waved them through, the couple exchanged a look everyone recognized, the kind that blends excitement with the pang of a temporary goodbye. Those who were there swear the mood was a mix of electric ambition and easy warmth. Yagmur paused at the gate to wave at two young admirers who had been too shy to approach, then tucked a lock of hair behind her ear and slipped past the boarding door. Baris lingered a bit longer. He took a breath, answered a few quick questions in that calm, measured way that has become his signature, and then disappeared into the airport's quiet edges, letting her moment stand on its own. Hours later, Parisian photographers caught Yagmur cutting through a crisp afternoon breeze near a production facility on the city's creative east side. No glamour entourage, no grand entrance, just a determined walk, a coffee in hand, and the sort of focus that makes a story all by itself. The sighting settled the speculation immediately. This trip wasn't a vacation, and it certainly wasn't a simple meeting. Cameras clicked, rumors ignited, and the project everyone had been tiptoeing around suddenly had a heartbeat. Insiders linked to the production began sharing a few careful details. The film, they said, is a romantic drama with a cross-continental lineup, Turkish and European actors woven into a narrative that travels across languages and cities with a sense of intimacy rather than spectacle. Steering it all is a respected European director known for coaxing raw emotion from nuanced stories, someone whose work critics recognize in almost a single frame. At the center of it, according to whispers now growing louder, is Yagmur. Her role is dramatic, vulnerable, and quietly powerful, something that, for those who have followed her up close, shows a side of her craft she's rarely had the chance to explore on such a scale. It's not a detour from her path, more like a turn onto a wider boulevard. Back in Istanbul, Baris watched the first images filter online. He didn't rush to claim the spotlight, and he didn't need to. A simple repost of one photo, a black and white shot of Yagmur entering the studio's glass doors, was enough to flood timelines with heart-stung comments and soft promises to watch every frame. It's that signature dynamic the pair have polished over time. She advances, he anchors, he advances, she steadies. Friends close to the couple describe this newest step as something they both have been preparing for, a shared ambition built on late-night conversations about craft, time, and the courage to see what happens when you leap. On her own profile, Yagmur shared a carousel that avoided glitter and went for intimacy. A corner of her script annotated with sloping handwriting. A glimpse of her rehearsal space with scuffed wooden floors and a single chair near an old window. A breakfast table set with nothing more than tea and a croissant, the city's rooftops stretching behind in silhouette. In the caption, she wrote a few spare lines, a promise to work with an open heart, a nod to the team welcoming her, and a quiet thank you to those who have believed. She didn't need to spell out the nerves or the thrill. The images handled that for her. What happened next won't surprise anyone who has followed the steady rise of these two. The comments section filled in minutes, messages from fans beaming with pride, notes from colleagues celebrating the courage it takes to cross borders for art, and a handful of simple, earnest lines from Baris that said everything without elaboration. People wrote that they felt like they were watching a family member take a big exam, that the sight of her walking into that studio made them sit a little taller at their desks. The tone was protective and jubilant, equal parts Duru coffee and fireworks. By afternoon, industry friends had added their voices, treating the moment not as a curiosity but as the beginning of something with long legs. If the couple had wanted a private milestone, the public decided otherwise. but it felt less like intrusion and more like collective pride. Of course, fame doesn't move without the little gusts of rumor that circle behind it. Some speculated about how distance would affect the couple's rhythm. Would this Paris chapter pull them apart, even a little? Would the time zones change how they show up for each other? Those familiar with them smiled at the question and shrugged. This was not their first test. Those close to the production say that after the first day of rehearsals, Yagmur returned to her temporary apartment, kicked off her shoes, and called Istanbul. They talked as the city lights blinked on behind her, a conversation full of in-jokes and small plans that reset the clock between them. Later, when a photo of Baris at a late-night gym session surfaced, no caption, just a grainy mirror and a tired grin, it felt like a message between the lines, "We are still us." As more came into view, the project itself started to glow. The script is rumored to trace a love story that spans two cities and the quiet spaces in between, the kind of tale that asks for a lead who can hold an audience with unspoken feeling. That's where the director, according to one veteran critic, is at his best. He asks for less performance and more presence, and Yagmur has always carried that instinct inside her, something listeners sensed even in her early interviews, something viewers felt in the way she lets a pause stretch just long enough to say everything. This time, though, the stakes are broader. The cast brings together sensibilities from different film traditions, and the production schedule reads like a postcard list: morning light by the Seine, a scene threaded through the steps of Montmartre, a breathless pause with the Eiffel Tower in the distance not as a symbol but simply as part of the city's pulse. The promise is not tourist drama but a story placed carefully in a living place. There's a reason this doesn't feel like a sudden pivot. Both halves of this couple have built careers with patience, layering their choices rather than chasing headlines. Yet there is also a clear sense, shared by fans, critics, and the many who have worked beside them, that this chapter could carry more weight than the ones before. It's not just about size. It's about the axis shifting. One well-known analyst of Turkish cinema put it this way after seeing a brief rehearsal clip: "This looks like a next-level turn, the sort of role that can stretch an actor's horizon and never let it snap back." As word spread, Paris turned into a quiet stage for moments that feed a fandom's appetite. A quick clip of Yagmur stepping out of a makeup trailer with a scarf knotted at her neck, a candid laugh with a European co-star at a cafe table between takes, a fragment of dialogue heard on the wind and gone again before context catches up. During a lull, a bystander caught her standing on a bridge, chin lifted, eyes closed as if memorizing the city's smell. The short video made the rounds. She looked both entirely herself and not the least bit ordinary. Meanwhile, in Istanbul, Baris was spotted meeting with his own team, fielding a new script, even as he made sure every public step left room for her spotlight to burn. That careful choreography didn't feel calculated, it felt like love wearing good manners. Support from inside the industry built a steady drumbeat. Directors and actors sent wishes that felt less like networking and more like genuine applause for a brave leap. A few international names followed her account, quietly telling the story of how word of mouth crosses borders faster than any press release. In a small interview outside a studio lot, a European assistant director said, with careful delight, that the set had clicked in record time and that the lead's work ethic had made long days feel like tight ones. The film may not officially have a title in the public eye yet, but its spirit is already being read like a mood board by the people paying attention. By the end of the first week, a pattern emerged. Dawn call times wrapped around late-night script sessions, afternoons belonged to rehearsals, and evenings, when they could, belonged to short calls home, to shared playlists sent across the distance, to reassurance tucked into ordinary phrases. The couple's inner circle joked that the ocean between them felt more like a river when you know where the bridges are. Fans, ever vigilant, pointed out how Baris's captions began to carry a little Paris in them, 2 words in French here, a wink there. It became a game that never felt like one because it was grounded in the real. And if anyone doubted that this was a turning point, the early draft notes from critics suggested otherwise. Those who had seen scene fragments spoke about the intimacy of the camera, the trust it placed in silence, and the way Yagmur trusted it back. They called it unshowy, grounded, persuasive. Not the loud kind of brilliance, the lasting kind. They spoke too about how important it is for Turkish performers to be given room to hold center stage in stories that cross borders without erasing where they come from. The film, it seems, has taken that mandate to heart. Soon enough, production trucks were glimpsed beneath the iron lace of the Eiffel Tower at dawn, the crew moving with that quiet ballet of practiced hands. Another day, a small team shot a sequence along the Seine while locals walked their dogs and barely looked up, the city's indifference making the scene honest. Later, Montmartre offered its steps and its soft afternoon light like an old friend. Fans visited the edges of these sets with respect, cheering when they could, keeping their distance when asked. Their reward was small smiles, a wave here and there, and the promise that when the film arrives, the patience will have been worth it. Through it all, the narrative that connects fans to this couple did not fray, it strengthened. This is not the first time they have aimed for something bigger than the last, and it will not be the last time they stand in the threshold together, one stepping forward while the other keeps the doorway open. If the public feels extra invested, it is because the stakes feel shared. Yagmur's gamble reads as Baris's faith, and his quiet posture reads as her courage reflected back at her. In a business that can turn even genuine moments into strategy, this sequence of days has looked pure. Maybe that's the rarest thing of all. As the cameras keep rolling and the city lends its streets, fans know what comes next. More glimpses, a teaser someday, a poster that starts appearing on train platforms and in Instagram stories, a premiere night that will thread red carpet lights through a chapter written in morning flights and late-night calls. Wherever they stand when that night arrives, together in Paris or reunited in Istanbul, the feeling will trace back to this week, to a suitcase rolling across an airport floor, to a wave at a boarding gate, to the certainty that love doesn't pause for ambition. It learns the rhythm and hums along. And until that curtain lifts, the watchers who have kept faith with Baris Baktaş and Yagmur Yüksel will keep doing what they do best, reading meaning into every little sign, celebrating every small victory, and waiting, happily, breath held, for the moment when fiction and real life meet at last, if only for the length of a scene.